Hey, what's up guys? Okay, so today's topic is what is more important for your sound, your bass or your amp? Now, I've played quite a few gigs in my day. I've played in venues of all types, such as stadiums, arenas, TV shows, amphitheaters, clubs, bars, you name it. And I can tell you from experience that your bass amp does not matter at all for your sound. Zero. And I'll tell you why. And when it comes to a live performance, there's two aspects to it. There's front of house, which is everything that happens from an audience perspective, everything in front of the stage. So you have the PAs and you have a front of house engineer that's mixing the sound. And then you have the monitor engineer on stage who's controlling how you hear yourself, how you hear the rest of the band, how the rest of the band hears you, etc., etc. Monitor world right here. This is where Jeff works on our monitors, our in-ear monitors. He's right there. And then Lauren, front of house, is right there doing the front of house sound. And the bass signal that is fed to front of house and to monitor world is almost 100% of the time a DI signal. It's just a bass plugged into a direct box. Very rarely do sound engineers actually mic a bass amp, and even when they do, they're really just blending that signal with a DI signal. So most of the time what people are hearing is just a DI signal. No one's hearing your bass amp. And most of the time, the bass amp ends up just being a monitor for you on stage so that you can hear yourself, but the rest of the band, they're hearing you through their wedges or through their in-ear monitors. And the audience and everyone in front of house, they're hearing you through the PA, and the signal that's going through that is a DI signal, not a bass amp. Alright, so I know that a lot of people who watch this channel are big fans of Flea, so let's start with him. So this is Flea playing at a basketball game. You see his amp right here, and notice what you don't see on the amp. It's not mic'd. There's no microphone. Now, do you really think that the people that are sitting all around this arena and the people that are watching this on TV are hearing this bass cabinet that's not mic'd? That's impossible. So more than likely, he's either plugged into a DI box or they're taking the direct signal out of this head right here, but you're not hearing these cabinets because they're not mic'd. These cabinets are just so that he can hear himself, and also for the look of the video so that it looks more legit and it looks better with the amp right there, but you're definitely not hearing this amp. There's no way you could because there's no mic on it. Alright, so now let's take a look at Sting. Now this is at some award show, I believe, and you see his amp right here, and notice what you don't see on his amp. There's no mic. His cabinet is not mic'd. Now, in contrast, you look at the guitar amp right here and look at what you see right here. There's a microphone. You see the mic stand, you see the microphone. You look at the bass amp, nothing. So you're definitely not hearing this amp. There's no way the audience is hearing this. The people watching it on TV are not hearing this because there's no mic. Now let's take a look at a different angle. All right, so you can clearly see right here, here's his amp, no microphone on it. And you look at the guitar amp, you can see the mic stand right here. Bass amp, no microphone. You are not hearing this amp. There's no way you could because it's not mic'd. Another angle, you can see that mic right there on the guitar amp, so you're really hearing that guitar amp. Nothing on the bass amp. All right, now let's take a look at Victor Wooten. Now you see his amp right here. Notice what you don't see, no microphone on this cabinet. Now if you listen to this video, there's no way that what you hear is a room mic or a camera mic. It just sounds too good. It doesn't sound roomy, and it's definitely a DI signal coming from either a head that he has over here or a DI box or something, but it's definitely not this amp. There's no mic on this amp. The amp is not mic'd, just like the other examples. So as you can see, third example, we saw Flea, we saw Sting, we're seeing Victor Wooten. No microphones on the cabinets. You're not hearing their amps. Now let's take a look at a guitar one just for comparison. Here's Slash playing at a hockey game. Here's his amps, and notice what you see right here. Microphones. His amps are being mic'd, so what you're hearing is definitely his amplifier. Now we didn't see this with any other bass amps, and when you're hearing an amplifier, you'll always see a microphone. There has to be something picking it up. Now sometimes you will see a bass amp being mic'd, But even when it's mic'd, there's still a DI signal as the main signal, and really the cabinet is just being blended with that signal. Very rarely do you have a bass amp being mic'd and it being the main signal that you're hearing. And if you look at a guy like Marcus Miller, he plays a late 70s Fender jazz bass. And when he bought that bass, it was completely passive, and he was doing a lot of sessions in studios in New York in the 70s and 80s. And in order to have some control over his sound, he installed a preamp on his bass because the engineers were just taking a DI signal straight into a DI box, no bass amp, and he wanted to have a little bit of control over the sound. So he installed a preamp on his bass so he'd have a little bit of control over the sound, because he didn't have an EQ like you would with an amp where you can, boost or cut bass or treble or mids. So he put that preamp on there to have some control over what he's sending to the sound engineer, because all the signal he's getting is coming from a DI box.
I had a Fender Jazz Bass, 1977 bass, and I installed a preamp on board in New York. It was really useful because we were going from session to session really fast. The engineers had to get a good sound really fast. So it was nice that we had preamps on our instruments. That way we could have a good sound and the engineer didn't have to spend a lot of time.
And if you watch clips of Marcus back when he used to play SWR amps, and now that he's playing EBS amps, it sounds exactly the same. There's absolutely no difference because he's still using the same bass, and it's just a DI signal coming from that bass into front of house, into the monitors, and that's what you're really hearing. And a lot of times these days, depending on the types of gigs that you're playing, you're not even using your bass amp as a monitor to hear yourself, because you're using this right here. This is called an in-ear monitor. And this is the JH Audio, the JH11s. And how this works is you put this in your ear. This is custom molded, custom made for your ear. So when you go in there, they take a mold of your ear and they make this custom for you. And when you put this in your ear, it blocks out all the outside sound, so you can't hear anything. So right now I can't hear anything in my right ear. This is completely muting everything in my right ear, and all you can hear is what's coming out of that in-ear monitor. And what's coming out of that in-ear monitor is a mix that the monitor engineer is giving you. And the bass signal that the monitor engineer has that he's putting in your ears is most of the time a DI signal. So you're hearing the DI signal as well in your in-ears. And if you're using traditional wedges, which aren't in-ear monitors, or just those speakers on stage that you use to hear yourself in the band, the signal, bass signal that he's feeding you through there is also a DI signal. So a lot of times you're not even hearing the bass amp. It's the in-ear system right here. It's my pack, my in-ears. Now it's funny, a lot of the people that are out there telling you that bass amps are really important, it's the most important part of your sound, they probably don't even know what this is. They don't even have in-ear monitors, have never played a show with them, and don't really understand this aspect of live music. So crazy how these people are giving you advice without even knowing what they're talking about. No live experience at all. Just blows my mind. Now one exception you might be thinking of is, well, what if I'm playing at a bar or a place that doesn't have a PA, doesn't have a live sound system, and the only sound that people are going to be hearing is the amp? Well, a lot of times these places are not designed for live music and don't sound very good. They have hardwood floors, they have mirrors, the sound is very reflective, it just sounds really muddy. So again, it really doesn't matter what you're playing, because no matter how good your amp is, it's still gonna sound like shit. Because a lot of times what you hear in these places is just drums and mud. You can't hear the vocals very well, you can't hear the bass, the guitar, it just all sounds like mud. And you guys know what I'm talking about. We've all played these gigs. A venue that just doesn't sound good, isn't designed for live music, and there's no one mixing the live sound. So really, the band is in charge of the mix through their amp. So a lot of times the guitar player might be too loud, or the vocals aren't loud enough, and it's just never going to sound good. So again, it doesn't matter if you have the greatest bass amp in the world, in a venue like this that doesn't sound good, doesn't have good acoustics, doesn't have a live sound engineer mixing the band, it's still going to sound bad. So I hope that was helpful to you guys. I hope that was insightful. You know, one of my favorite entrepreneurs and motivational speakers, Grant Cardone, he likes to say that there's a difference between information and knowledge. And unfortunately, there's a lot of information out there, but very little knowledge.
Look, just because you have information doesn't mean you have knowledge. Okay, if you're taking notes today, information is different than knowledge. Information is everywhere. Knowledge is nowhere today, okay?
And that's very true because, especially with YouTube and the internet, that makes it a lot easier to learn stuff, a lot easier to access information. But unfortunately, it also makes it very easy for someone who has no experience, no idea what they're talking about, to just make a video that looks professional, that makes it look like they do know what they're talking about, and then they give you this crap advice, and the people who are beginners, who don't know any better, they'll listen to that advice, take it to heart, and make their decisions based on this bad advice that they're getting online. So I like to make these videos every once in a while to help you guys, to give you guys the truth, give you guys real information from experience, from someone who's been doing this for a long time. So if you like this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more. If you have any more questions, leave a comment. Let me know what your question is. I'd love to answer it in the future video. And with that being said, I hope you have a fantastic day.